and welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Curator. Today we're going to do something different. We're taking a road trip. As I sat here this morning drinking coffee from my Crook Farm coffee mug, I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we actually went out to the Crook Farm? Now, the Bradford Landmark Society owns the Crook Farm. We also own the Herbig Bakery, which serves as the headquarters for the society. But the Crook Farm itself is a living history museum, which showcases the life of the early settlers in the area. The Bradford Landmark Society bought the Crook Farm in 1974, and we restored it and put it on the National Register in 1976 for the bicentennial. The farmhouse itself is incredibly interesting, and today we're going to join Dean Fox, who is a volunteer at the Landmark Society and who knows all about the wonderful things inside the house. Come with us now as we join Dean down on the farm. Before we join Dean Fox down at the farmhouse, let's learn a little bit about the history of the house itself. It was built by the Crooks, and it's called the Crook Farm. But who were the Crooks anyway? Erastus Crook and his wife Betsy came from Olean in 1828 with their daughter Caroline, traveling by canoe down the Allegheny River and up the Tunagamont Creek. There they settled, cleared the brush, farmed the land, and eventually had 6 more children, 2 boys and 4 girls. In 1853, Erastus bought a small farm consisting of 142 acres north of Bradford on the banks of the Tuna Creek. The farmhouse, this house, was built in 1853 and is believed to be the oldest house still in existence in the Bradford area. Life on the farm was hard. The Crooks plowed the fields, tended the animals, harvested the crops. They made their own shoes, candles, wove cloth on looms, taped the maple trees for syrup, and did their own carpentry. Food was cooked over a fireplace and later a wood-burning stove. The Crook women grew a large vegetable garden, canned and preserved, baked bread, churned butter, made cheese, and milked cows. The Crooks chopped firewood and hauled water from the well. Things changed for the better when an oil well was drilled on a quarter of the farm. Called the Olmsted Well, it commenced production in the summer of 1875 and became one of the most successful oil wells on the Tuna Flats. And although the Crooks only owned a very small royalty of the well and never became rich, that small income made life on the farm so much easier. In the early 1970s, it became the dream of the Landmark Society to create an oil village, and the search was on for an appropriate location. And while they did look at 2 other locations, this one, on the banks of the Tuna Creek, seemed ideal. It had all the requirements. The property had been continuously occupied for 4 generations of the Crook family who had engaged in farming. The homestead was one of the oldest surviving houses in the area, and the property was on the site of Bradford's first large producing well. In addition, invaluable background materials from the family were available, including a detailed diary, old photographs, personal papers, and artifacts. Its location was perfect too, on the outskirts of Bradford and adjacent to Route 219. The rear of the property was the Tuna Creek. It was the perfect site for the future Crook Farm. Of course, when the Bradford Landmark Society purchased the Crook Farm, the house did not look like it does today. Here's a good example. This photograph was taken in the early 1970s, shortly after the Landmark purchased the house. You can see there have been a lot of changes along the way, but the basic structure is the same.
Hi, my name is Dean Fox, and I'm a board member of the Bradford Landmark Society and a very eager member. I'd like to give you a little tour of the Crook Farm, the Crook House, and if you'd like to join me, let's go around the corner of the building here. The thing you have to remember is the Crook family moved down here in 1850. They moved from Cold Spring, New York, and when they came here, there was no street out here, there was no electric lines, there was no neighbors, no cars driving by. It was nothing but forest. And from that 70-acre chunk of forest that they purchased, they had to cut down trees, they had to get lumber to build this house, they had to plant crops between the stumps of the trees they cut down, they had start raising their cows and chickens and sheep. So it was a hard scrabble life. It wasn't a little house on the prairie. It was a very hard living to make. Now, if you want to take a moment, we'll look at the foundation of the house here. Now think about it, this is just one part of that foundation. Before they built this house, they had to dig out the root cellar, and they had to haul these rocks up. Probably most of them came out of the Tuna Creek, which is about 200 yards that way. But look how they're all put in there. It comes out perfectly level at the top. The rocks, there's no spaces between them, and that's without mortar. To give you an idea of how hard it was to even begin to build a house back then. Okay, this is something we're very proud of. This property has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places by the United States Department of the Interior. That means it can't be altered in any way. Anything we do has to be period correct, and that takes a lot of work, but we got a lot of good people willing to do it. So we're very proud of this. You can tell this room was built after the room we just left. The flooring tells it all. When they first started cutting timber back in the mid-1800s, it was all hemlock. Hemlock is a very hard softwood. It wears a lot better. With this floor, you can see where the knots are sticking up. This was probably white pine. So that gives us an idea when this room was added onto the house. Now, we talked about no electricity. In this room, in none of these rooms were there any electricity. So if they wanted light, they had these candles up here that they burned. But keep in mind, they had to make their own candles. You didn't go up the Tuna Creek to the nearest general store. There were no other neighbors in this area. So they had to make their own candles, and they didn't last forever. They probably lit one candle, sat in the middle of the room, and everybody did whatever it was they wanted to do by the light of that one candle. Again, it wasn't a little house on the prairie. It wasn't the whole room lit up. So it's something to keep in mind. Okay, we're now in the summer kitchen. This was added on, probably the last addition they made on the house, and probably the one they enjoyed the most. Cooking with wood in the summer must have been absolutely brutal. This is a stove we call Old Smoky. As you can tell, the plates, it's been used so much, the plates are warped. They don't sit down as flat as they used to. And what you do is you built your fire in here, and then this was your oven. This over here. No, it's locked shut, so we'll pass on that one. You have your irons. They put their irons on here to get them hot. They did their laundry out here. They would heat water in this big tub. This is one of the sticks they would use to stir their clothes around. They would often wash their clothes in a tub, like this one here. You got your washboard. You have your wash water in here, your rinse water in here, and you would turn this handle. It's easier when there's water in the tub. You feed the clothes through here, and it would almost squeeze them dry, so when they had to hang them out, it didn't take near as long. You have canning jars scattered everywhere, because canning was a big part of their life back then. You grew everything you ate everything you grew. There was no going to the store to get vegetables or anything like that. Okay, this is another wood burning stove they had. You built your fire in here. You would do your cooking right on front, right over top of the fire. Put your saucepans back here, anything you wanted to keep warm while you were cooking up here. The heat and smoke all drafted through this stove and up to the chimney. And then here, you would have your oven. You could either keep things warm or maybe bake some bread. It looks kind of simple, but to me, I thought the engineering for that time was very impressive. Okay, this would have probably been their pantry, and as you can see, got all their canning jars up above. There are extra plates for when they had company or maybe just some special gathering or maybe a holiday. And you have candles. Everywhere you look, there's candles in boxes, candles on the shelves. To give you an idea how many they went through every year. And they probably averaged at least a candle a day. And you figure 300, 325 days of the year, they had to burn candles when it got dark early. So it was a lot of work and not a whole lot of light. Alrighty, we've all heard the expression, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. These are what they call tick mattresses. and you filled them with whatever you had, hay, straw, leaves, and I gotta believe when you did, there was a lot of bugs in there. The sleep tight part, what we use is a box spring. They would string rope, and you would put this device right here on the rope. You give it a turn, and that would tighten up your would-be box spring so you weren't sagging in the middle. So that's where sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite came from. Okay, another thing I want to point out, there's in all the rooms in this house, you probably noticed there's not a single closet. They didn't have the clothes we have today. There was 5 pegs on that wall. In the morning you got up, you'd hang your nightshirt and you get your bib overalls and your flannel shirt and whatever other clothing you had. And they probably had 1 peg for good Sunday go to meeting clothes. But that gives you an idea the kind of life they led. It wasn't luxurious in any way. Okay, and one more thing I want to point out before we end this tour is as you look around this room, the walls are completely bare of anything electrical. There's no light switches, there's no outlets, and that was right up until the landmark took over the property. There's no ceiling lights, so this whole room would probably take, if you wanted as bright as what we enjoy today, it would probably take a half a dozen candles, something they could ill afford. And the other thing, I always love to ask the kids this for school days, did anyone see a bathroom in our tour? Think about that. Alrighty, I think that ends our tour for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. But what I hope even more is next summer when this pandemic has finally gone away, you'll come down and you get a real tour when we have our Crook Farm days, and there's all kinds of activities, so we can spend more time together and I can explain things in greater detail, if you can stand it. So, thanks a lot.